found AHO Radio. We're authentic human outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic. To bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, John Krotec and Bill Protzmann. Hey, John.
Hey, Bill. You know, every time I hear that, man, I feel like I'm in some type of black kettle somewhere with a bunch of natives jumping up and down, getting ready to cook me.
That's perfect. I mean, that's exactly how it feels right now, right? I mean, I don't know who the natives are, but I'm in the kettle, man.
I know. I feel like I'm in this black kettle just waiting for the big chief to come out and say, I want him. I want him.
Yeah. Oh,
anyhow.
Yeah. So
good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. Good to see you outdoors. I was outdoors earlier.
Yeah.
It's great to be back in the, feeling I'm in a neighborhood again. I hear people outside and the kids playing and, people talking, whatever. It feels good again.
Well, it's quite I'm glad. And it's quite an understatement to say, hey, we've gone through this interesting period in history, and this is historical. I don't think we've ever experienced, any of us, except maybe those World War II guys that are still around, of something really, really earth-shattering like this.
Yeah, it is earth-shattering. I feel, well, of course, I don't watch the news, but I feel the sort of commonality with people in Asia hollering out their windows every night. We don't do that here in my little corner of San Diego, but I know it happens other places in the world. It's like there's a fundamental, let's join together in some ways, whether that's with our voice or with our vote, whatever it is. But I love the fact that people are doing that. That community is so incredible to me. Well,
there's definitely a common bond that we've all got, being members of humankind, and regardless of what people think or feel, that's something we can't deny.
We can't deny it. Yeah,
we're all human. We cannot deny our humanity. We cannot deny being a member of humankind, and we all have these choices, right? And we're going to talk about noise today.
Yeah,
and how noise affects people.
That is such the question right now, because I want to be in this place where the noise is musical. And I don't feel that in every way. So hollering out the window, like yelling together, howling at the moon, that's a kind of universal connectedness. But the noise that we're talking about today is what I want to call internet marketing noise. And I'm not saying that pejorative way. Please don't hate on me, people. Don't hate on me on this, because there's a lot of good that goes on in marketing on the internet. The noise I'm talking about is the incessant sort of influencer noise, where just because you're the loudest one, you have the biggest following. That doesn't track.
Well, it doesn't track for most people. It might resonate with some, but the reality is, and I'm glad you said that, in a world of, I'll even take it a step further, digital experts, these digital influencers.
Yeah.
We're in a world where everybody's an expert, and you can go on there any time of the day and whatever social media platform you're on, there's all these experts and they're all talking. Yeah. And they've got this and they've got that and they've got this position and this methodology. And after a while, and I don't want to be hypocritical here because this includes us, who's listening? Who's listening in a world of experts where everybody's an expert? Who's listening anymore?
Yeah, it's a one-way street, isn't it?
Aren't the people desensitized by now?
If anybody reads something that you write online anymore, interacts with it in any way, it's almost like a gift.
And if if you're aware, if you actually look at trends and you see things, and I go back to what you and I've talked about before, Bill, the bling bling syndrome. So this week it's that expert and everything's hot to trot for that person. And then a week later, it's another expert. And if you track or look at any of that, and you mentioned social media, look at the likes. The likes. They're so watered down. What does a like mean anyways? What is it?
Well, I've discovered something, and this is, we'll talk about this because the immediately actionable content for this particular show is how we're going to transform marketing for the post-COVID age. And it's transforming, people. Take my word for it. But so what we want to talk about here is, how is it that you get likes, and how is it that you get sales? Because they're two different things.
Yeah, and that's the multi-million-dollar question. It's crazy to me. And again, I don't want to denigrate anybody.
No, please. We're not hating on anybody here, everybody.
It is what it is. But okay, so I could go downtown Sarasota, look how lovely it is, and I could put a picture out. My wife and I could go enjoy a crepe Suzette at the French restaurant on Main Street, and 750 likes, right? But we could put out an interesting piece about a veteran or something that's really, really, really a lot more than a crepe Suzette, and nobody likes it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure that out. And then again, I don't think, unless you're paying massive amounts of money on these social media platforms for these sales funnels, I don't think it's the best medium for sales. And then again, it depends on what your business is. So
that's true too, because if you're selling
widgets
or T-shirts or something like that, I mean, there are products that work well on social media, but big ideas, like revolutionary ideas, we've seen how revolutionary ideas fare in social media. Somebody comes up with a revolutionary idea, and I'm going to use Bernie Sanders just because I'm going to use Bernie. He's done this a couple of times. He came up with some revolutionary idea. He used social media to grow his campaign, just like Obama did. But at some point, the hate mail started, and the anti-Bernie social media campaign began, and it became this fight. And the news was no longer whether anybody had good ideas. The news was the fight.
Well, then you get back to the noise again, and we've created all the Mark Zuckerberg. Thank you very much. We're using Facebook, and we appreciate that. But we've created these platforms where there's no responsibility anymore. You can kind of do, say whatever you want to a certain extent, and even when you cross over the line, it's amazing to me how some people's stuff remains up, and some people's stuff disappears.
Yeah.
And so, whether we believe it or not, freedom of speech, I think, maybe a hyperbole at this point. I don't think that we are. It just adds to the noise. So if there's anything, that's totally original or authentic, I think it just gets piled in with a bunch of other stuff that's just copycatted or not original or not authentic, or it's the same system that everybody's using. And God bless all the life coaches. They're awesome, doing some great work, turning people's lives around. But how many life coaches do we need, people?
Well, let me ask that question a slightly different way. If you are someone right now who's looking for a life coach, and you decide that social media is going to be the place where you do that research, the ones that will come up for you are the ones that Facebook or whatever the algorithm is decides are best for you. And Facebook bases that in part on the reach that those people's social media accounts have. So you might wind up with Facebook suggesting coaches to you that are very popular, but that may not actually be correct for you. That may not be the right ones for you. It takes extra effort to find the right ones. And that could be a coach or anything. I mean, the algorithms are set up to base their presentation to you in part on popularity. Doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's popular. That could be the guy, the coach could be the guy who goes to lunch and posts crepe Suzette photos every day and gets 700 likes for them. And that to Facebook says he's popular. It doesn't say that he's popular as a crepe Suzette eater, though. It says he's popular, period.
And there is the manipulation of data, which we all talk about, and what it really means for humankind. We talked about something the other day, you and I, Bill, and we talked about how many social platforms do you have to be on to live a social life? And the answer is
zero. Hello, zero.
So if I have 5,000 friends and none of them live in my hometown, that's not a social network, or not a real one anyways. It's a digital social network.
Yeah.
But you can't live and breathe with those people.
But John, let me ask you a question. So you've got 5,000 friends. Let's just say you've got 5,000 friends.
I don't even have 3 friends, but you and my
but
wife.
At some point,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get 20,000 friends. Now, that's, what do they call that? Social capital. That's what they're calling it. Now, does that mean that you have 20,000 friends that you actually know, that you correspond with, that there are actual real live human connections going on with 20,000? It's impossible. We can't do that, according to, what was the book called? I think it was called Outliers or whatever, or maybe it was Blink. Anyway, Malcolm Gladwell basically helped a company do a study, and they found that you can
Great
actually,
book, by the way.
it's a great book,
Yeah.
but you're limited. Our human thing limits us to around 80, 83 people that we can actually know well and correspond with and work with. And that's the limit, folks, 83 people. So if you've got 80, whatever, if you've got 90 friends, there are some friends that you don't know at all. I mean,
and that,
you don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I read somewhere that 83 is high. I read somewhere you're lucky if you have maybe a dozen friends.
Right. Maybe true friends, 5 or 6.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's a whole other story.
That's a whole, but that is one of the measures of credibility in social media. I think, forgive me for saying this, but folks, I think that's bullshit.
I have to agree with you because, think about this. Think about if you have 1,000 friends, right? Which I still think is kind of crazy, but let's just say there are people that are like very well known. Okay. And then you have 1,000 friends of people that aren't so well known. They're going to give credence to the person that's what we call the influencers, to the person that has all these well-known people, to the person that maybe has 1,000 rock solid. There's something missing in the mix.
Yeah, there is something missing in the mix. And
with
even
the noise,
like old school, I know people who are credential collectors. And by that I mean that they're taking all these courses and classes and whatever. And if you're a CPA, for example, or in any of the professions, that continuing education is a big part of what you do. You stay on top of things. It adds to your credibility. So in the professions, that makes sense. But if you're a person out there who's like a, quote, holistic healer, and you've got 14 different credentials on your wall, that's fantastic, man. That's incredible. But where's your focus? I mean, the message can get lost in the modality.
I think that people, and I'm going to get back to this. And again, I'm a person, so this includes me. Why listen to me? But I think that when you drive around during this COVID-19 and you see people inside their cars with a mask on, I think that that's indicative of exactly what we're talking about. These people are easily led. And people seem to think because you have 500,000 listeners or followers that you're in some way the person to follow. And all of your ideas may not be original or authentic at all. You could be copycatting somebody and people think you're the best thing since sliced bread. And you may be. I don't know. I'm not here to pass judgment, but there's something that doesn't feel quite right with the methodology or the mechanisms now to sway social thought or to be truly a contributing member of society.
Yeah,
because I got to tell you, that, I don't know. I'm not there. So I don't know. Maybe it would feel really good to have 100 million followers. I don't know. Would it change me? Maybe. But what am I going to do and wield with that power, so to speak, that digital power? What are you going to do with it? Are you just going to add to the noise?
And it's self-reinforcing because if with all those followers, then YouTube says, hey, well, John's got all these followers. We're going to reward him with ad revenue. And it wants you to make more followers and grow bigger and, and extend your reach even further because that's, now it's monetized.
Yeah. And again, we're getting into some deep subjects. We're probably going to raise some hairs on the back of people's necks. And that's probably a good thing. But, I guess it gets down to the noise. Are you adding to the noise? Are you subtracting from the noise? And unfortunately, I think we're at a stage in the noise that I don't think a lot of people are listening anymore.
Yeah, I think we've reached saturation.
And once you cross that threshold where people tune in, tune out, tune in to tune out, then I think that nobody's effective. I think that, if everybody's wearing green pants, are they really that special?
Yeah.
So if everybody's got a sales funnel or a click funnel and everybody's got this program and this program and this program and all they are copycatted programs, how effective are you really anymore? How effective is that to humankind? And how many people are really watching you? I see some fantastic people on social media platforms that are incredible human beings. I mean, all human beings can be incredible, but they get no play. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who is this lady?
Yeah.
People need to be listening to her.
Yeah.
But no, the person that's doing something else that adds no value except entertainment, maybe, which we all need. I don't know. Anyhow, I don't want to get bogged down in the
You've gone the right
minutia.
place, because thinking of this as an outlier, which both of us are, and thinking of this as an authentic human being, which I'd like to think that you and I are. And by the way, I'd like to think that there are people out there listening who are also authentic outliers. In that space, we encounter crazy. There's a lot of crazy in that space, people. And there's a lot of inspiration that comes in that weird, crazy place where you don't fit into the mold of everything else. And if you're not fitting in, hey, glad you found us, because we don't either. But our responsibility in that place is, rather than standing back and saying, okay, we're authentic human outliers, and then playing the same game in social media that everybody else does, we can't do that because it's not authentic for us. It doesn't feel right to add to the noise that way, especially like my lane's music. So I'm anti-noise right away. I want to have everything sound good. I want things to be in harmony. And there's a place for noise in music too. But my ethos says, if I can avoid noise, I want to do that. Now, when the marketing world is saying, make more noise, Bill, and you'll sell more product, and my ethos is, I can't be a noisemaker. That isn't my product. There's a conflict there, but it's a great conflict because it's opening us up to what's next. What's the next thing we can do that's not ClickFunnels-y, that's not noisy? What is marketing going to evolve to be so that folks who have an authentic message can really ride that to success?
Well, I've got 3 questions to add to that. For anybody listening that stayed with us this long, sometime in your life, have you ever felt, this is the first question, have you ever felt like you didn't fit in? Just think about that second for a minute, maybe. Let it sink in. Do you ever feel like you've never fit in? Second question I would ask is, do you have an idea that could revolutionize the world? That could literally, maybe it could start at the local level, then it could go to the community, the state, it could go, do you have an idea that could revolutionize the world? And then the third question I would ask and pose is, do you feel safe sharing it with anybody in any community? Because I think that there's people that can answer yes, yes, yes to those 3 questions. And these people that are out there look at everything else that's going on in the proverbial social noise that's going on, and they're reluctant to come forward because they feel like it's just going to be drowned out.
Oh, well, it is. Personal experience, you guys.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at, is right here with what we're trying to do with AHO Radio and the Authentic Human Outliers. We're trying to create a platform or a social network of people that can answer to those 3 questions. Because if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, number 1, you're honest, which shows you have integrity. Number 2, you are definitely unique because you're speaking out and you do have beliefs that aren't like everybody else. And the third one is you're just you. You're as close to being you as you can be. And when we're authentic, when we're actually being authentic with who we are, then that outlier persona can be something that we can be proud of. Because I'm like you, Bill. I can answer yes to all 3 of those questions.
Yes, sir, all 3.
And I know that if I continue on this path, and if I continue to connect dots with similar and like-minded people, we truly could revolutionize systems and platforms and processes all over the world.
Yes.
And we can do it in a manner that is integral, and in a manner that is authentic, and in a manner that could probably monetize like nothing ever before.
Yeah, most importantly,
I believe that.
It won't depend on some algorithm to sort out who's what and what deserves to get heard and what doesn't. And that algorithm could be whatever Google and Facebook use. It could be whatever the editors at the broadcast networks use. whatever that is, we can jump right around that and just get to the, get down to it without having to mess with all of the other stuff.
So yeah, exactly. And I want to share another book. You talked about Blink by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, great book.
Awesome book. Another book I'd like to bring in right now is a book by Deepak Chopra and Manas Kafastos. I can't pronounce it, but it's called You Are the Universe. And it says, discovering your cosmic self and why it matters. And it's a great book. This is a good book. And then the second one I would bring out here would be The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neal. And it's the only thing you need to know to change your life forever. And I'm not going to give it away, but it's a short read. It's a good read. Both of these books I just shared are awesome. And those are good to find to start that journey to find, self-actualization and clarity. And
this is a tough one, because folks like you and me, John, so we've been working on this self-actualization thing for a while. And fortunately, for whatever reason, we've had the time and space in our lives so far to be able to do that. A lot of people just want to have a 1, 2, 3. And I get that. I really understand that works. And that's why things like ClickFunnels work so well, because people can plug into a system that does what it does and that can produce results. But when the system's saturated, you're not going to get the same results. Like back in my network marketing days, it was great to be able to get on the ground floor of the pyramid, because you would get the biggest pop if you were in that place. So I was never privileged to be part of that inner circle, but people who were making it in multi-level marketing were changing pyramids every time they could and bringing their downline with them, because they had all of that in place and they could quickly profit from that. And that's the same kind of scenario that people are saying with internet marketing today. If you have a huge following, you're going to be able to mine that following for results. Okay, great, fine. But
I'm just shifting my camera here. I'm not.
If it's saturated and everybody's doing that, you can no longer have that impact anymore. So what John and I are saying here essentially is that we need to find a new way, and it begins with an investigation of who you are, what your authentic self really looks like, because that's what people buy. You may have a great product and you might be a rascable individual and nobody's going to buy from you because they don't like you. You might have a lousy product, be a great individual, and people are going to buy from you because they like you. So who are you? That's the real marketing question. Who are you? Because everything that goes into your marketing comes from who you are. And if you're not authentic and you don't mind doing whatever you do, then great, no problem, doesn't bother me. But if you are authentic and you're trying to market something that's revolutionary, that the world needs a lot, you're not going to get there through the traditional channels or the internet marketing channels. You're going to have to get there on this one-to-one basis that John was talking about. And if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, you're in the lane. You're already doing that work.
You're already in the lane, yeah. And it gets really down to sustainability. I think all those programs that have been proven winners work. The ClickFunnels and the methodologies that you're talking about.
Yeah, friends and family. I mean, it's great.
It's great. The first 10 businesses that you sign them up for whatever. But the reality is this: how sustainable is that? And once that following trickles out, where's it really going to go? And so I've always believed in my heart of hearts that authenticity is real and sustainable, and not being real and being inauthentic might last for a short period of time, but it'll fizzle out like a meteorite. You're going to be the flash in the pan, and then you're going to be gone. And the flash in the pan might be all that you need. It might be everything that you hoped and dreamed for in your life. And that's great. And I hope that it is. But for the most part, most people put on their pants every day and they go to work. They're doing the best they can. And somebody like that's just, that feels defeated and not able to relate to the world, maybe has the most revolutionary idea, but because they get drowned out by the noise, they don't step forward. And what Bill just said is, the first 3 questions asked, if you're yes, you're in the lane, and it's time for you to get on that train, to figure out what really is important in your life. And are you going to add more noise or subtract from the noise? And personally, I would like to add real noise, and not do what everybody else is doing.
You're talking about adding music.
Music, poetry, you know, things that maybe have something solid behind it, not just the intent to sell. Something that somebody could hang on to in a more tangible way, because money is fleeting. Music, once it's recorded, it lasts forever. Once you write a poem and it gets printed, or you write it somewhere, it lasts forever. I talked to a buddy of mine, John Preston, out on the West Coast. He's a Marine who is he plays music, and he did the theme song for Straight Outta Combat Radio, one of the songs. And, he talks about the 1,000-year warrior. And the 1,000-year warrior concept is, whatever you do now, is it going to last 1,000 years? Wouldn't it be awesome if 1,000 years from now, they were still talking about you? Or is it just some flash in the pan business that played a certain role for a certain period of time and it just came and went? What do you call those one-hit wonders?
Exactly. That's
the one-hit wonders. But the one-hit wonders, some of those songs last.
Oh yeah, Junk Food Junkie, man, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Kung Fu Fighting, it's still around. But my point is that we're all here for a purpose. And when we lose focus, or we lose the clarity, or we lose sight of that purpose, and I would like to think that it's more than just about revenue streams.
Yeah, it's way more. It's about the fundamentals. And there have been people who have been in this marketing battle for a long, long time, who are still fighting it today. A lot of those people have titles like pastor or minister or rabbi. The spiritual leaders, imam, that have led us for so many generations are having a tough sell right now.
And what they're selling is awesome stuff. I mean, it's sustainable.
Yeah, it's self-awareness, it's transcendence, it's life and death, people. If you haven't got a core, it's deep work, right?
So I know I've talked about this book, and Bill and I love this book, Deep Work. But deep work is where my head's been at for the last 120 days. We live in this distracted, noisy atmosphere with all of these great, what I call manufactured bliss. Many others call that too, that really is a distraction from the fear of being authentic.
Right. It papers over what matters most.
Yeah. And it feels good for a while. Hey, I got to tell you, buying something through a large retailer is awesome online. It's within your house within a day. And that's kind of cool. But then after that day is over and you've got it, then what? Then what? I don't even have to leave my house. I just proved that COVID-19, we've been fortunate. Hey, I'm so very blessed. But my gosh, maybe this is what life is becoming. Just, captive to the noise, just sit back and, and isolate and not be real anymore. So but I think humans they're crying out for it.
I think we are, generally speaking, we want something more. Even the ones who are most influenced, who are closest to the mean, and that's a statistical term for people who are in that 68% of the people who are in the middle. They're not the early adopters. They're not the visionaries. They're like the solid consumers, right? They're
the bell curve. They're
the top of the bell curve. And that's beautiful. That's a great place to be. But if you're an outlier like John and like me, we don't fit in that. We're not led that easily. We think too far outside the box. And so it's great to have that comfort. But what's happening with COVID is that 68% is getting blown up and they're getting antsy. The people are starting to get jittery in there. We see protests and we see other stuff. And, no smart marketer is going to come in there and change anybody's minds. That's not what marketing is about, people. You don't change people's minds. The smart marketer is going to show up in there and say, hey, people, let's work together. And at the level of the 68% first standard deviation, what the answer to work together looks like is going to be different than if you're out toward the edges of the bell curve.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take it even a step further, mentioning deep work, in Cal Newport. He throws the gauntlet down in one of the chapters. He says, try an experiment. He says, do deep work, cut off all social media, all news for 30 days and see what happens. He said, and if you can't do it, if you can't go cold turkey for a 24-hour period of time because of your job or whatnot, he says, then do an hour in the morning, take a timer in there with you, and an hour in the afternoon, you know, those kitchen timers, we've all got one. Do an hour, no shortcuts, no stretching the rules. You start it at a certain time, you end it, and you're done. Turn it off. And I told you what I did with my email. I've got that email string that he recommended about the, you know, we're busy and this and that. If you got something that can really fit into what I really do, then send this second email. Well, this is what's interesting. And we know how we deal with email. It's cut down on 95% of my email coming in. Now, if it's somebody I know, obviously they don't have to go through the process. If it's somebody that I already personally know. But if it's somebody that's emailing me, cold emailing me is what I'll call it, with some great idea that's going to just take me to superstardom, and they don't take the time to send the second email, then my gosh, they're just adding to the noise.
Oh, yeah.
And Cal Newport's deep work tip is paying me dividends because I'm spending less time on email these days than I ever have before the last 10 years.
You know, it's coming to LinkedIn too. I wish there was a way to do autoresponders in LinkedIn, because anybody doing marketing now has a bot on LinkedIn that's annoying you. And
get them all, 10 or 15 of them a day.
And it's like, okay, but I've discovered which ones are bots by simply asking a question back. Like I got a reach out from some guy who was doing lead generation, and I said, well, that's interesting. So how can I respond to this? And so I asked him a question back about his business. And what I got back was a pitch for me to sign up on his calendar so that he could hear more about my business. So I knew I had a bot right away because he'd ignored my question. And the reason I bring all this up is because if you're being ignored, you're not talking to an authentic person. And yeah, I know he was following the marketing rules. The marketing rules, it's all about the customer. You ask questions of the customer, blah, blah, blah. But if your initial outreach doesn't show that you're authentic, that you ride right over it, John, you don't get the second email from somebody who really wants you as a prospect. In LinkedIn, you don't get a response back that starts a dialogue, a two-way street. That's not authentic. The two-way street is authentic. And that two-way street is really important because, John, you're sitting over there on the left coast. I'm sitting out here on the left coast. There's a lot of space in between the two of us. And if that space is representative of the distance between a coach and a client, and the two of you can't figure out how to learn about each other within that space, what's the point? You know, if there isn't a two-way street from the start, what's the point?
Yes, that's the whole, and we've talked about strategic partnerships in business before. It's always a two-way street. It's never a one-way street. And, for some reason, it seems to be more and more these days a one-way street. Everybody's so drowned out by the noise, they don't have time to build two-way streets. My challenge would be this, or my heralded outcry would be this. Don't become part of the desensitized community. Resensitize, get real, practice some deep work, read a good book. Another one I just finished is Lessons from the Hanoi Hilton. Again, it's fairly thin. It's written by Peter Fretwell and Taylor Baldwin and James Stockdale, and Dr. London, did some things with the introduction, but this is a really solid, good book. So when I talk about resensitizing, I'm talking about getting in touch with who you are through your close friend and families, your business associates on a one-on-one basis. And I know people during this time have reached out more, but, I think even towards the tail end of this, I'm not sure when it's going to end, but I think people are really feeling drowned out by the noise, and the response time from people is worse than it was a month ago.
Yeah.
It seems, people are really getting to the point now to where I think there's some type of depressive thing happening now.
Yeah.
And I'm also seeing COVID-19 being used as an excuse not to even answer a simple email.
It's a little bit frightening because what we want most right now is this human connection. And what's happening is our modalities are getting in the way of our connection.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to fall to where I've been at in my life many times in this desperation mode, where I feel like if I'm not doing something, I feel worthless, or if I can't get the next sale, I feel worthless or something like that. And that's not a good place to be. So all I can say is I don't want to add to the noise. And I probably did add a little bit to the noise today. I hope that it didn't sound like I was venting, but I really would like to impart just, some thoughts and some things to think about. And, call me a thought provocator, call me an outlier, call me anything you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just a label. But the reality is I'm real. I know that Bill Protzmann is real, and I want you to be real too. And I know that you've got a voice. So, tell us what you're doing.
Yeah. Start a dialogue. And on the other side of that is we have a responsibility, John, to hold this safe space. We've had all kinds of people on the show and polarizing perspectives in many ways. And if we can offer that safe space and have a dialogue with people who are on the fringes, on the outlier fringe with the rest of us, way out there at the fourth standard deviation, the tiny little percentage of the population that's crazy, basically. We're crazy, dude. Then if we can hold that safe space, that's the place where creativity happens. In this creative tension between what we have and what we want, right? There's a spark. We don't know what it's going to be, but we know holding the tension, this is the way creation happens. We hold that tension between what we have and what we want, that the answer is going to emerge. The creative thing, the innovative thing, it's not just reinventing the wheel, but something brand new happens in that space. So how well do we hold that safety for people? If you're listening right now and you have a great idea, how well is that safety being held by the people around you for your great idea? If you want to try a safer place, there are other options. Find those safe places. And oftentimes it's not putting it on social media where everybody comes at you with, breathing fire for your idea, whatever it might be. And if it's controversial, I guarantee you'll get some coverage. But if it's the Dalai Lama, and he's preaching compassion is not a great sell, because people don't want to buy something that has a solution invested in it. They want to buy something that has conflict invested in it. They want to see the fight. And that's not serving us anymore. So look for safety, look for dialogue. These are marks of an authentic relationship. And if you can find them, then do that. Strengthen those. Find other people like that. If you want to try new ones, we've got them. Welcome aboard to AHO Radio.
Absolutely. Don't let technology dehumanize you. Make a conscious choice to rehumanize yourself and join the Humankind Network and the AHO Radio Network.
And I'm going to say something kind of weird right now, but I really believe this, that...
No, not you.
Not me. Say something weird.
No way.
No,
man.
Can't happen. But enjoy the conflict. Enjoy the tension. Because it's out of this tension that we're in that the new stuff emerges. And I don't mean by enjoy, I mean let it work on you. Don't let it destroy you, but let it work on you to really investigate what matters, what's most important, what really invigorates you, because that's your message. That's who you are. And that's the person that people will buy.
So get real. Don't add to the noise. And if you add to the noise, make sure that it's worth listening to.
Yeah, add music, not noise. Please.
Yeah, add music, not noise. There are a lot of good songs out there. There's a lot of good books, but there's a lot of great poetry. But appreciate you listening again to another episode of Bill and me on AHO Radio. And, just be blessed and be you. Go out there. You're part of this cosmos, flex your muscles and make
part of
things
this
happen.
Incredible. What a crazy place we live in right now, people. Isn't it just amazing? It's scary and we're over the cliff with no parachute and all that. But at the same time, this is how, this is how stuff changes. And we need change. We need change. I know we need change. Don't we?
We're changing every minute as we speak. Thanks,
changing.
Bill.
Hey, John, thank you, buddy. We'll do this again soon, right?
We will.
Hey, coming up next week, people, we've got a really incredible guest on board. A guy who's got a solution for homelessness. George Mullen, tune in then. Thank you for joining us on this episode of AHO Radio. Information we mentioned is probably in the show notes, but if we missed anything, please let us know and we'll get it added for you. Subscribe to the AHO Radio channel on YouTube to stay connected, and, as always, we wish you health, success, and significance. AHO!
AHO!